like he's a character that keeps switching and changing, and I think that it is still tethered to the same aspect of himself, which is loneliness, or there's a chasm there, there's a void there. Interestingly enough, like in the second season, it's kind of masked by this snarkiness, this I don't give a hoot. We're in Texas, I can say that. I don't give a hoot. But he does so much about Miles, so much about their, deep down, their acceptance of him. But he's got this kind of weird, like, push me, pull me attitude. But it's the same guy that was screaming to his friend to take him back and to explain why he treated him in such a way, in that petulant sort of manner, is the same guy that is hanging around this group, keeps coming back to this group, and then saying how much he doesn't need them. There's something in that. There's something in that Rachel picks up, that a few people pick up. It's like, what are you doing? You know, if you think you can go and lead the world, go and lead the world. What do you? I constantly, Monroe constantly says, I need Miles. And even his son says, like, what for? But I think that acceptance is kind of very much at the heart of that character. And I still question as to how much he really wants the power, as opposed to how much he really wants to fill the void. In Connor, Monroe sees a lot of himself. He sees a lot of missed opportunity in terms of his own character, where he came from, what he went through, the loneliness that he experiences. And I think in Connor, he sees his own legacy. And that kind of comes across in a lot of things that he says to him. And as a result, he is willing, as long as he knows that flame has been passed to Connor, he's willing to bow out because the Monroe name lives on. And I think that outside of this kind of a lot of people have suggested might be a megalomaniacal quest for power, I think at the end of it, there is a kind of very lonely, who am I and what am I in regards to this world, and what am I leaving behind in a character like Monroe? And I think Connor represents that. There is like the ripples and waves always go through that, and I think that Matt plays Connor so well that you can see it constantly churning in the back of every scene. I think that as we get to know him, and as the scripts come in, and the writers start changing it, I think that you'll start to see a real pull in that character. I have my own somewhat more set feelings about that relationship as Monroe, whereas Matt is being, or Connor is being pulled by Charlie, by what is right, by his own background, and now he knows that Monroe was responsible not only for him being sent down to Mexico, but also for the death of his own mother. Now that from Monroe is a confession that takes a lot of courage to bring up, because he knows that there is going to be certain ramifications, major ramifications, but he also knows that the only way he's going to get his son to give that death stroke is to say, this is what I did to you, so do it back, give me some. And in doing so, we're even. So I think that after that fight, that balance, it's not equal by any means, but I think it's going to shift and change quite a bit. I think there's a really fascinating, look, I was speaking in terms of character, I think there's a really fascinating concept of Monroe having, I'm not sure what they are, but there's something in Charlie that he sees. Now, how do I say this delicately? I think that there is an element of jealousy there. And the jealousy comes not only in regards to Charlie, but also in regards to his son being able to do that, to give himself over to someone, to be loved and to love. And I think that in terms of where does that line come from in him, I think that maybe it comes from a point of jealousy, but overall it comes from a place of, I want you to feel 100% and wholly in love, because Monroe's never felt it. And I don't think that he would ever feel it with Charlie, given her relationship with Miles, with Rachel, with everything. He just won't be accepted into that group. And I think that in the paternal sense, he's saying, mate, go and find something that I never had. And don't find it in her. I mean, I don't know if I've explained it, but I think that I think there's a very rich context to that line. Not only the history between Charlie and Monroe, and Monroe and Rachel, but also just in terms of what he wants for his son. Get out of this. It's kind of weird because it's paradoxical, because I say, like, go and rule the world, but also fall in love and have a kid. Which I was kind of like, when the writers gave me that, I was like, how does one say that in the same sentence? But I think what he's saying is, go and make something of yourself. And it's kind of interesting because, like, in every scene we play, it's always like me saying something snarky or really rude to a lot of the characters. They're like, dude, like, put it away. And I think that he's the irritant in it. And I think that what we're starting to see is that in doing so, he's just getting in there close to Miles and he's in his ear. I think that in the latter half of this season, you'll start to see him just get a little bit closer, and in those moments of Miles' vulnerability, he'll just say a couple of things which will align himself with Miles and say, what are you doing? What are you doing with these guys? I mean, you say you want this. You say you want to take down the Patriot. Why? Why do you want to take, why are you living this kind of heroic lifestyle? What's the end game? And I think that is one of the great things between that relationship is that Miles is uncertain of really where this is all leading, whereas Monroe is kind of a little bit more clear. It's leading probably back to a Monroe Republic, and he can see it. Maybe it's going to be better this time, but he needs Miles to do it. But I think in terms of his relationship with that group, Rachel pulls him this way, Charlie pulls him this way, Monroe gets him closer, starts to pull him in a different direction. Look, I think that deep down he has these old relationships for 15 years or more, in fact, many more, with these people like Rachel and Miles and stuff, that there's a comfortability with those characters, even though there's also this abrasive quality. It's kind of like that shitty uncle that comes to Christmas every time and will sit there and ruin the party, but you kind of go like, but he's kind of funny. You know what I mean? I think that he's that guy.